Hello, my name is Leah Neitz. I had started this channel a while ago to start raising awareness about some of the factors that are influencing our kids and influencing them and kind of grooming them for violence. And it started with movies that were being shown to our students that were incredibly violent and completely unfiltered. And that kind of came to a head. It started in September, October of 2021, and then May, I believe it was May, when Uvalde happened, our kids were watching a movie where people are lined up in the road face down and shot one by one in the back of the head in full graphic detail while kids were being gunned down across the country. So I contacted a senator who started on a bill, and I'm just waiting for that to play out. It takes some time. So I'm waiting to see what happens with that, if she actually follows through or not. But in the meantime, I had started looking at some of the other things that are influencing our kids and grooming them for violence. I noticed a common root between all of these things, between broken families and fatherlessness, and the media that they're watching, and the worthlessness that they're feeling. And I started trying to talk about those things with other people, and it just was really hard because everyone was so stuck on the gun control narrative, like for or against it. They were just kind of stuck there. And I realized that we've become so polarized and so separated as a people that we are not going to be able to conquer these problems if we cannot reconcile with each other. And I started trying to think of a way to explain this divide and how things are supposed to be and how they started. And this is kind of a metaphor that came to mind. Red and blue make purple, and purple is the color of royalty. And a sovereign nation is one that is operating in royal authority, and a nation divided against itself cannot stand. People are naturally red-minded or blue-minded. Like, we were created that way, to be leaning one way or the other, just like we're right-handed or left-handed. Very few people are born ambidextrous, and we can become ambidextrous, but we have to practice and train ourselves to be that way, and that takes time and it takes work. To start seeing the world through purple lenses, we have to practice looking through the eyes of other people that don't think the same as us. I'm not talking about compromising with evil. And there's evil that comes with the polarization of both sides, and there's evil on both sides. I'm not talking about those things. I'm not talking about racism and sexual grooming of our children and things like that. When the red and blue are balanced and they're working with each other, those things are non-issues. I mean, evil always exists, but they don't take over a society unless the two are polarized from each other. When our nation was first founded, there were people from all different backgrounds and right-leaning and left-leaning, and they came together under a common cause for freedom from oppression and tyranny, and they worked together and brought all of their ideas to the table and were a solid unit. They were all playing on the same team, and you need people with different perspectives to have a healthy country, to have a healthy family, to have a healthy business. You need different perspectives and different ways of seeing things. And when we're in good communication with each other, then that works really well. But there came a point where we split off into party groups. And instead of working together, our leaders, in an attempt to hold on to power and line their pockets with our money, started dividing and conquering us, because they knew that if we were divided, they could easily manipulate us and control us. So we need to get away from those leaders and stop allowing them to put thoughts in our heads, and come back together as a solid unit and act as one nation under God, indivisible. The word indivisible means it cannot be divided. And when a nation is created on a foundation like that and it's split apart, it is a violent process and it destroys the country. So I started looking into the colors of our flag and what those colors mean. And the red stands for valor and bravery. And it is not just an ability to fight well and be skilled at fighting off enemies, but also a show of it. It shows strength and it is strong. And people who are represented by red are they're really good at seeing danger and seeing enemies and fighting them off. And They are willing to give their lives to protect their country, to protect their family. And it's something that they're hyper focused on, and they're really, really good at. They're really good at spotting danger and enemies, at spotting oppressors and tyrannical rulers and fighting against them. They are people who are willing to fight and die to preserve our freedom and our unity and our prosperity. Red lens people are also very skeptical of anything that looks like it's infringing on freedom. And we've certainly seen this over the last 2-3 years, where you have a big group of people that's like, I don't trust anyone right now. And it's because that's how they're wired to see the world. They're wired to see danger and oppressors coming. And so it's not coming from a place of selfishness. It's not coming from a place of evil. It's not coming from a place of stupidity. It's coming from a place of caution that's naturally hardwired into them. And we need to be paying attention, especially when those people are actually giving up their livelihood to send out warnings about these things. White stands for purity and innocence, and that doesn't really need much explanation. The blue stands for vigilance, perseverance, and justice. And vigilance it's carefully and constantly making sure that people in the nation stay safe. And perseverance is an unwillingness to give up. It's like constantly going, you just don't give up. And justice is a quest for not just consequences for the guilty, but it's a quest for mercy and compassion. And it seeks for people to receive their due if they're doing wickedness. But it also seeks to help the oppressed and make sure that they are not being pushed down unjustly or suffering under the hands of oppressors unjustly. So when you have the blue working with the red, they are able to extend their arms to the needy and make sure that the innocent are preserved, and they also are able to block out the guilty and recognize who the real enemies are, because they're working with the red, who is able to protect the nation, to say, hey, there's danger, and fight it off while preserving the innocent that the blue is concerned about. They both work together to keep everything functioning properly so everyone is just in the best place. When the red loses, when it's split off from the blue and it's polarized and angry, it loses its compassion. It becomes hyper-focused on the enemy and so legalistic that it can no longer see the victims that are suffering. And it ends up destroying the enemy, but also destroying the victims and those who are suffering along with the enemy. And it's easily manipulated by people who want to stay in power, and they're pointing at people who are blue-minded and saying it's their fault when it's not their fault. That evil was there. Now the blue might be manipulated to enable the monsters and the evil, but that evil existed without the blue being there, and they are not the problem. The problem is the actual wickedness and the evil that's going on, and the monsters trying to get into the country. And but the view gets distorted when we're separated from each other. And likewise, the blue loses its ability to see clearly the enemies and the danger, and wicked people in power come along and they use emotion. They use emotion to manipulate. Because blue-minded people are so compassionate and they really hate suffering, wicked people start to tell them, if you don't feel good, then you're not being loved. And so it's unloving to make someone feel bad. And they just get really easily manipulated by wicked people and end up enabling our enemies and enabling wickedness when that was never their intent. And they are unwilling to have a conversation with red-minded people, and so they're unable to get a clear view of everything that's going on. It goes both ways when we are separated from each other. In both cases, whether the red-minded people are stronger or the blue-minded people are stronger, the nation gets destroyed because those polarized positions are destructive. So now we've come to a place where we have these people who call themselves elites because they're so insecure, and they're little trolls, and they have mastered the art of divide and conquer. And you'll notice that every time there's a school shooting, immediately, I mean within 10 minutes, you have these leaders that are on the left screaming at the right side saying, you're enabling people to shoot our children and you're putting weapons into the hands of the people that are killing our kids, and this is all your fault and we need to ban all guns, and pointing at red-minded people, other Americans, and saying it's their fault. And then you have people that are leaders on the right who are pointing the finger and saying, we needed more security and you should have armed all the teachers and we need more guns and you're not taking our guns, and pointing the finger at other Americans that are blue-minded and saying it's their fault. When the truth is that if we had all the security in the world and we had all guns banned, our kids would still be broken and dying inside, and the problem would not be solved. They would still be self-destructing. So it's time to no longer allow them to have a voice in our lives. They should not be forming our thoughts for us. They should not be forming our opinions about other Americans for us. We should not be letting them speak hate over our country and demonize half of the country to us. So every time we turn on the news or whatever show, and there's some famous person, some celebrity, some media person, some politician who is talking about a problem, and they are saying the left is doing this or the right is doing this, and they are, putting the blame on left or right or conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat by using that language and not calling out the person or the entity or the committee that is causing the problem. They are sending us a subconscious message that half of the country is to blame for this problem. And we end up associating each other with political elites who just want power over us and really don't care about solving any of these problems. And what we really need to do is stop associating ourselves and each other with them. Stop identifying our neighbors who think differently than us with those people, because they aren't fairly represented by those people, and neither are we. They only have the authority that we allow them to have. So I really encourage you to shut off the news, shut off whatever show it is whenever they start demonizing half the country, even if it's the half of the country that you haven't liked for a very long time. Because when we start talking to each other one-on-one and we start asking each other, I know you believe this and I don't agree with you, but why do you believe this? We'll find that we have a lot more in common than otherwise, and we'll discover different problems that we didn't realize were there. We need to take each other seriously, because half of the country is not full of idiots. I mean, there are idiots out there, but it's not the majority of us. And most Americans are actually on the same page. Most of us have the same values. And it took me a while to learn this. I had some close friends and family members who I thought were on the same page as me. And throughout different conversations, I realized that they were not. We were not on the same page about some things, but they were too precious to me to just let them go. So I decided to just sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, why do you believe this? Why are you thinking this way? And when I just sat there and listened to their answers, they were not evil answers. There were things that they weren't seeing that I was seeing, but there were things that they were seeing that I wasn't seeing. And when we can all come together and see all of those things from one view, like see all views together, then it really, really works. It's like a pair of 3D glasses. You have a red lens and a blue lens. And if you just look through the red or you just look through the blue, the picture is distorted. But when you put them both on together, you get a clear picture and the details pop out at you. And that's very much how we need to be operating, with both lenses on. We should never be reaching across the aisle. We were meant to walk down the aisle together and stand in it and do life together, just like a married couple would. That's what Americans were meant to be. We were meant to be a unified people that wasn't reaching across anything, because there should be no division to reach across. We should be all in it together. We're on the same side. We are not against each other. It's not red versus blue. It's red, white, and blue, or blue, white, and red, whichever you would like to put it. But we're all supposed to be together in this and not fighting against each other. We are not enemies. So I am no longer identifying myself with a political party or a side. I am an American, and I think most people in this country are Americans and are tired of all the division and all of the lies and all the polarization and all of the divide and conquer. And it's time to get rid of it. So yes, I hope this reaches a few people, and I hope that it helps to change the perspective a little bit and make things a little bit better. We shall see. I will see you guys later.